so now we're moving on to 12.3, permutations and combinations. And again, check your vocabulary. The first two we were interested in to start off with, permutations. All right, how many ways can you do something out of how many ways? Okay, so that's what a permutation is. Now, what's a factorial? Well, for those of you that have done Algebra 2 before, a factorial, if you remember, if you multiply numbers 4, 3, 2 and 1 together, you're going to finish up with 24. Well, if you put that straight into your calculator as 4 factorial, and it looks like an exclamation mark, and if you put that in your calculator, you will get 24. All right. Now, what happens then? So let's have a look at that in the question. All right. So the question is that you've got 20 girls, each with the number jersey 1 through 20. Shanice wants number 1, and Renee wants number 2. So first and foremost, your 20 factorial is going to go on the bottom. Okay, so straight away, the number of choices that you've got. Remember the girl with the dress and a handbag and all this sort of thing. All right. So if you take 20 girls and you take out the 2 that definitely want numbers, you're left with 18 factorial, okay, which is now what we've got here. All right, well, as you can see, you finish up with 18 factorial, then, so if you go 18 factorial, then you're going to divide that and then expand this out a little bit, so you're going to finish up with 19 times 18 factorial. Well, look what happens here. These two guys will cancel. And if you cancel them out, you're going to be left with 1 over 20 times 19, which is 380. Okay, and that is a permutation. Okay, so how does this work now? Okay, so 5 students are asked to randomly select a name of a polygon from the group below. What is the probability that the first 2 students will do a triangle and a quadrilateral? Okay, so same scenario first. Let's sort your permutation out. You know that you've got 5 factorial on the bottom. Okay, well then what have you got? You've got 2 out of the 5, so what's left is 3. So 3 factorial. All right, so just like we did last time, let's separate that out. So you've got 3 factorial on the top, and then we can do 5 times 4 times 3 factorial, okay? Well, now you know that the factorials will cancel out and you're left with 1 on the top, and 5 times 4 will give you 20, okay? So again, work out the factorial, break the denominator out until you've got an equal number on the top and the bottom. They can cancel out and you're good to go. All right, so now let's have a look at example 2. Now we're looking at permutations, okay? And again, just by notation, what you've got here, which is APR, or NPR I should say, okay? On your calculator, you will have a button that looks like this, okay? Now that is what you need for permutations, all right? Now, how does that work? Well, look at what they're doing here. They're putting it in. So the N is the number of students, and P is the permutation, and the 3 is the number of different ranks that they want. Okay, so if you put that into your calculator, exactly as that, it will automatically give you the answer. All right. But then that will tell you how many different combinations there are, but you've got to work out what is the probability of those 3. So in theory, what we do is exactly the same as what we have been doing, but now what we need to do is obviously turn it upside down, because that's what we want. So we're going to do 15 take away the 3 chances, which will give you 12 factorial. Okay, and that's going to be over 15 factorial. And just like we did last time, okay, you're going to do 12 factorial over 15 times 14 times 13 times 12 factorial, and then again these guys will cancel and you finish up with your answer, which is 1 over 2,730. But this guy will actually give you how many different possibilities there are. So again, let's have a look at the same thing. So we're looking at this NPR button. Okay, if we did 18 and then we press the P and we want 3, if you remember, We've got Chase wants the lighting, Jaden wants the props, and Emmalina wants the spotlight. So there's your working out, okay? So if you do that, then let's work it out again. So what is the chances of it doing it? So let's rotate that around. So we can put that in our calculator. That'll tell you how many it is. All right, but let's do the work again. So you've now got 3 factorial all over 18 factorial, and doing exactly what we did last time. We know that the 3's factorial will cancel out with the 3 factorial, so we're actually going to go from 18 and we're going to multiply 17 times 16, etc., all the way down to times 4. Okay, so you can put all that into your calculator, and either you take this number here and reverse it, because invert it, because don't forget it's going to be 1 over, and if you multiply all those numbers together, you get, I've got 4896. Okay, so there is 1 in 4,896 chances of those 3 being picked at random to get those particular points. All right, so now let's have a look at this permutation and how it goes in with repetition. All right, so the correct spelling of Mississippi, the river Mississippi. So let's have a look at what you've got. All right, step 1. First and foremost, how many letters? There are 11 letters in total. All right, so now we know where we've got there 11 factorial from. Then you've got to work out what happens next. Well, the I occurs 4 times, the S occurs 4 times, and the P or 2 times. Okay, so you've got 4 factorial, and 2 factorial, and that just becomes a multiplication. Okay, so if you put that in your calculator as 11 factorial and then 4 times 4 times 4 factorial, you will finish up with this as your fraction, and you simplify it, and you know that the probability is 1 over. Okay, so all you've got to do is invert it and you get the correct answer. All right, so now we're looking at that in its format. All right, so you've got the letters C, F, and F. You've got the numbers 3, 3, 3, and 1, and you want it. What is the probability of using them in that order for that letter? Okay, so let's first and foremost, let's find out what we've got. All right, so we know how many letters and numbers we've got. We've actually got 7 letters and numbers, 7 factorial. You know, if you put that in your calculator as it looks like that, you're going to finish up with 5040. All right, so this guy is basically your denominator. So you're going to bring this down here as 540. All right, and that's going to equal your 7 factorial. All right, so now let's work out what the rest are. Well, the rest are letters. So first and foremost, the C is just 1. So you've got 1 factorial, 1 times 1. Okay, you know that's going to be 1 anyway, but we'll keep going. The 2 F's, so you've got 2 F's, so that's 2 factorial. You're going to multiply that by the number 3. Well, you've got 3 3's, that's 3 factorial. And then finally your number 1 is 1 of them, so that's 1 factorial. Okay, now this is not 1 times 2 times 3 times 1, which is going to give you 6. Okay, the 1's are going to make 1 anyway. 1 times 1 is 1, so that one and that one you can ignore. So 2 factorial is 1 times 2, which is 2. Okay, and you're going to times that by 3 factorial is 1 times 2 times 3. Well, that's going to give you 6. So now we're going to finish up. So basically you're going to do this. All right, so 1 times 2 times 6 times 1 will give you 12. And now if you put that into your calculator, if you divide everything by 12, you're going to get 1 over 420. And this is your answer that you need. Okay, so let's have a look at example 4 when you do circular permutations. All right, it tells you that there's 6 charms on a bracelet as shown in a circle. Okay, and it needs to be in that order. So taken from no particular point. So if we start from here and working our way around, you've got 5 other permutations. So if you do 6 take away 1, you're left with 5 factorial. And don't forget, it's going to be 1 over the factorial, so 1 over 5 factorial, and don't forget 5 factorial is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which will give you 120. So let's have a look again like this. This is very similar to what you had last time. Okay, you've got 6 numbers again. You start with any particular number. Well, let's just go numerical. So we're going to start with 1. And you've got 5 other numbers. So we've got this 6 take away 1. And that's going to be factorial, which is going to give you 5 factorial. And 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 will give you 120. And don't forget, for your probability, you're going to invert it, so it's going to be 1 over 120, and that's the A part of it. Okay, and the B part is a lot easier. We're back to general probability now. What is the probability that the test tube number 2 will be on top? Well, there is only one number 2 and there are 6 possible positions, so it's just 1/6. Okay, so now we're looking at combinations, all right? And again, we've got the same sort of thing that you get on your calculator. So this time it's NCR on your calculator instead of NPR, okay? So working it through with that again. So you can use that, or you can just use straight information. But let's have a look. You've got slight difference this time. Okay, so what have we got? First and foremost, we've got 20 friends. So you know that 20 friends go on the top. Okay, eventually you're going to invert it, but at the moment it stops at the top. She wants 20 of them in a particular, she wants 6 of them in a particular order. So here's the 20 minus 6, which is your 14 factorial. But look at this extra bit here. Okay, you must multiply that by whatever number is being used. So in this case it's the 6, so you're going to do 20 minus 6, which is 14 factorial, and 6 factorial. Okay, now you start in the same format as you did last time. All right, you go in 20 factorial and you need to do 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15 until you get to 14 factorial, because you know that the 14s will cancel out. Well, none of the other numbers on the bottom will cancel out as far as numbers on the top. But don't forget, now you've got rid of the factorial on the top, you've got rid of the factorial on the bottom, and you've expanded the 6 at the bottom. So all it's doing now, so for instance, if I do 6 times 3, I get 18. If I multiply 5 times 4, I can get 20. So as you can see from what they're doing, they're slowly cancelling things out until you finish up with whatever is left to be multiplied, and you get 38,760, and you know that you have to invert it, so it's 38,760. All right, so now let's have a look at this combination. What have we got? First and foremost, it tells you there's 500 boys, so straight away you've got 500 factorial. Okay, and you want 2 people, this Josh and Soccer. So you know you're going to do the same subtraction again. So 500 take away your 2, and you've got to do that, and that's going to be factorial. And then in the other is the same 2 people. So that's the slight difference, remember? Okay, so 500 take away 2 is going to, let's have a look at what we've got. So first and foremost, 500 at the top. We've got 498 factorial on the bottom, and 2 factorial, and again put these in parentheses, it simplifies it. Okay, so let's expand the top out so we can do it. That's going to be 500 times 499, okay, times 498 factorial. Okay, and that's all going to be over 498 factorial times 2 factorial. Okay, so we now know that that and that will cancel out, and 2 factorial is 1 times 2, which is 2, and the only thing that can be simplified is that can go into that 250 times, and if we do 250 times 499, you finish up with 124,750. Okay, so that's the different combinations, but you want it as a probability, so your answer is going to be 1 over 124,750. Okay, so that's your answer.